Do you know that the way you sleep tonight could quietly raise your risk of a stroke, even if you feel perfectly healthy right now? It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? No warning signs, no chest pain, no dizziness, just a normal night's sleep. You close your eyes feeling fine, but by morning, everything can change. You wake up confused, unable to move one arm, or your words won't come out right. It happens silently, suddenly, and often to people who never saw it coming. As a brain doctor, I've seen this countless times, and it's not just about smoking, diet, or stress. It's about how you sleep. Most seniors in America have developed sleeping habits that feel comforting, lying flat on the back, curling to one side, or dozing off in a recliner. But beneath that comfort, something dangerous is happening. Blood flow slows, oxygen drops, vessels strain, and in the quiet hours before dawn, a clot can form, and it triggers a stroke. If you're over 60, this message could save your life, because tonight, while you sleep, your body's position may decide whether your brain wakes up healthy or forever changed. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn may completely change how you think about sleep. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Sleeping flat on your back, head level. If you're over 60, there's something almost comforting about lying flat on your back at night. It feels peaceful, aligned, maybe even natural. Arms at your sides, eyes closed, no pressure on your hips or shoulders. You might think, this is how I've always slept. Doesn't hurt anyone. But what if I told you that this one position, this ordinary habit, could be quietly putting your brain in danger every single night? As a brain doctor, I've seen it again and again. A senior goes to bed feeling perfectly fine. No chest pain, no dizziness, no warning signs. They wake up confused, their speech slurred, one side of their body weak or completely still. In the emergency room, a scan reveals the truth: a stroke caused by a clot that formed in the quiet hours of sleep. No fall, no accident, no stress, just the wrong position in bed. Here's what most people don't realize. When you sleep completely flat, your head and your heart are on the same level. That might sound harmless, but for an aging body, it's not. As we get older, the blood vessels in our neck and brain lose their elasticity. They become stiff, narrow, less able to regulate pressure. Blood flow slows, and the veins responsible for draining blood from the brain must now fight against gravity. Instead of flowing freely downward, blood begins to pool, especially in the small, delicate vessels deep within your brain. This stagnation is where the danger begins. Stagnant blood becomes thicker, stickier, and far more likely to form clots. Those clots don't always stay put. As the night goes on, your blood pressure naturally rises, particularly in the early morning hours, between 3 and 6 a.m. That's when the brain is most vulnerable. A small clot, trapped overnight in a narrowed artery, suddenly breaks loose. It travels upward, lodging in one of the vessels that feed your brain. And in that silent instant, it triggers a stroke. You don't feel it coming. There's no pain to warn you. You simply wake up changed, your words slurred, your hand trembling, your mind cloudy. I've treated proud, independent men and women, retired teachers, veterans, nurses, who told me the same thing. I went to bed fine. I woke up broken. And the heartbreaking truth is this: most of them never knew that sleeping flat could set this chain reaction in motion. The head level position allows blood to collect in the brain's venous system, increasing intracranial pressure and reducing oxygen flow. Add mild nighttime dehydration, low oxygen saturation, or blood pressure medication that drops pressure too far. And you've created the perfect storm. The brain, that soft, fragile organ you've trusted your whole life, is left struggling for air. That's why I now tell every patient over 60, elevate your head, even slightly, just 20 to 30 degrees. Use a wedge pillow or 2 firm cushions that support your neck and maintain alignment. It's not about comfort. It's about circulation, oxygen, and protection. It's about keeping your brain alive and alert through the night. Because when you sleep flat, your blood slows, your vessels strain, and your risk of stroke climbs higher with every hour. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wait for a bad day or a bad diet. It happens quietly while you dream. And if you think that sounds frightening, wait until you learn what happens when you sleep face down. That's where things turn even more dangerous. Because in that position, your very breath, the thing keeping you alive, can become your brain's worst enemy. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Sleeping on your stomach, face down. For many older adults, sleeping on the stomach feels familiar, maybe even comforting. It's how you've slept for decades, maybe since childhood. You lie face down, arms tucked close, the weight of the mattress pressing gently against your chest. It feels warm, safe, like a cocoon. But what if I told you that this very position, one that feels like peace, could silently be cutting off the blood flow your brain desperately needs to survive? As a brain doctor, I can tell you this. I've seen too many seniors lose everything. Their speech, their balance, their independence, all because of what happens to the arteries in their neck while they sleep face down. Here's what really happens under the surface. When you lie on your stomach, your neck must turn sharply to one side just so you can breathe. That twist compresses the vertebral arteries, the 2 major blood vessels running through your spine that deliver oxygen-rich blood to the back of your brain. That part of your brain controls coordination, balance, and even consciousness itself. Now imagine that compression lasting not seconds but hours. The blood slows. The oxygen drops. The arteries, already stiffened by age, narrow further under pressure. The veins that are supposed to drain blood away from your brain become kinked and congested. Over time, this stagnant blood becomes thicker and heavier, and eventually it forms clots. Those clots sit silently through the night, waiting for your blood pressure to rise in the early morning hours. And when it does, when that natural surge hits between 4 and 6 a.m., the clot breaks free. It races upward, blocking a vessel in your brain, and in an instant, it triggers a stroke. You don't feel the buildup. You don't feel the danger. You might simply wake up dizzy, unable to stand, or unable to speak the words in your mind. I remember one patient, a retired teacher from Minnesota, who slept face down her entire life because it felt cozy. One morning, her daughter found her half awake but unable to move her right side. The scan showed a cerebellar stroke, a type that affects coordination and balance. The cause wasn't high cholesterol or diabetes. It was poor circulation from sleeping face down night after night. For people over 60, this position is especially dangerous. As we age, our arteries lose elasticity, our oxygen levels fall more easily during sleep, and our ability to wake up when something is wrong becomes weaker. What a 30-year-old body can tolerate for 8 hours, a 70-year-old brain cannot. And if you snore, have sleep apnea, or take sleep medications, the danger doubles. These factors make it harder for your body to sense falling oxygen levels. You won't wake up gasping. Your body will simply endure it, silently, until damage is done. This is not just about comfort. This is about survival. Sleeping face down may seem harmless, but in truth, it suffocates your brain slowly. It disrupts circulation, and over time, it forms blood clots that can change your life forever. If you've been sleeping this way for years, don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Start by switching to your side, preferably your left, and use a firm pillow that keeps your neck straight, not twisted. It's a small change that protects something priceless: your ability to wake up as the same person who fell asleep. Because if sleeping flat on your back lets blood pool in the brain, sleeping face down does something far worse. It cuts off the very air your brain depends on. But there's another nighttime habit that millions of older Americans find comforting, one that feels warm, quiet, and safe. Yet it can slowly suffocate your brain from the inside. And it starts with something as simple as pulling the blanket over your head. 3. Sleeping with a heavy blanket over your head. It's a small, innocent habit that many older Americans carry from childhood. Pulling the blanket up over the head before drifting off to sleep. Maybe you do it because your room feels drafty, or your spouse snores, or because it simply makes you feel safe, cocooned, and warm. You pull that quilt up, close your eyes, and think you're protecting yourself from the cold. But what you're really doing is quietly cutting off the air your brain depends on. As a neurologist, I've seen how this simple act can lead to devastating consequences. Older adults tell me, "Doctor, I've slept that way my whole life." They don't realize that the aging brain no longer recovers the way it once did. When you sleep under a heavy blanket that covers your face, you're not breathing fresh oxygen. You're rebreathing the same air over and over. Air that's low in oxygen and high in carbon dioxide. And over the course of the night, that imbalance becomes dangerous. Here's what happens inside your body. As oxygen levels drop, your blood vessels constrict to try to maintain pressure. The heart begins to beat faster, working harder to push blood to the brain. But in older adults, those arteries are already stiff and narrow. They can't expand the way they should. The reduced oxygen thickens the blood, slows its flow, and makes it more likely to form clots. Those clots can form silently in the veins or arteries that feed your brain. And once again, when the early morning hours come, when blood pressure naturally surges, that small clot can dislodge, travel upward, and trigger a stroke. You may never feel it happening. You might think you slept soundly. But if you wake up groggy, lightheaded, or with a dull headache that fades slowly after getting up, that's your brain telling you it was deprived of oxygen through the night. It's a warning sign, one too many seniors ignore until it's too late. I'll never forget one patient, an 82-year-old retired postmaster named Richard. Every winter, he'd pull his thick quilt over his head to stay warm. He told me it made him feel calm. One morning, his wife couldn't wake him. When the paramedics arrived, his oxygen level was dangerously low, and a scan revealed a small stroke deep in his brain. It didn't happen because of heart disease or cholesterol. It happened because his brain was suffocating slowly while he slept. He was breathing the same air, night after night, until the damage was done. For the aging brain, even mild oxygen deprivation is serious. Studies show that seniors who experience lower oxygen levels during sleep face a much higher risk of stroke, memory loss, and cognitive decline. Your brain can only heal and clear toxins during deep sleep if it has enough oxygen. Without it, your blood becomes thicker, your vessels more fragile, and over time, it forms clots that can change your life forever. This isn't about comfort. It's about survival. If you're someone who sleeps with the covers pulled over your face, it's time to change that tonight. Use breathable cotton sheets, a lighter blanket, or wear a sleep mask if you need darkness. Keep your room comfortably warm instead of trapping yourself in a bubble of stale air. Your brain needs fresh oxygen the way your heart needs a steady beat. It's what keeps you alive, alert, in you. Because what feels safe isn't always safe. What feels warm may in truth be quietly suffocating you. And if you think that sounds frightening, wait until you hear about the next sleeping habit. One that millions of older Americans have fallen into, believing it helps their pain, when in reality, it's silently cutting off circulation and increasing stroke risk every single night. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Sleeping upright in a recliner. Across America, in thousands of living rooms, you'll find an older man or woman asleep in their favorite recliner, a soft blanket pulled up, the TV glowing faintly in the background. For many seniors, that chair becomes their bed. It feels safe, easy, familiar. Maybe your back hurts, maybe your hips ache, maybe you just can't get comfortable in bed anymore. You tell yourself, it's just for tonight, but tonight becomes every night. And what feels harmless, even comforting, might quietly be one of the most dangerous ways to sleep for an aging brain. As a brain doctor, I've seen this scenario far too often. A senior who used to be sharp, active, independent, suddenly found in the morning confused, slurring words, one arm limp and heavy. In the hospital, the scans tell the same story. A clot in the brain, a silent stroke that began in the night. No fall, no trauma, no warning, just another night in the recliner. Here's what happens deep inside your body when you sleep sitting up. The human body was designed to rest flat, allowing blood and oxygen to circulate evenly from head to toe. But when you sleep in a semi-upright position at a 45 or 60 degree angle, gravity pulls your blood downward, away from your brain. The veins in your legs and hips become compressed under your own weight, and blood begins to pool in the lower half of your body. That slow, stagnant blood is thicker, stickier, and far more likely to form clots. In younger adults, the heart compensates easily, pumping harder to keep blood flowing. But in seniors, the heart muscle is weaker, the blood vessels are less elastic, and dehydration is common. The result is sluggish circulation that worsens over hours. A clot may start to form deep in the legs, in a vessel that's been still too long. It sits quietly through the night, growing larger and more dangerous. Then, as morning approaches and blood pressure naturally rises, that clot breaks free. It travels upward through your bloodstream until it reaches the brain. And in that instant, it triggers a stroke. You don't feel the clot moving. You don't feel it forming. You simply wake up changed. Sometimes it's a small stroke that steals your balance or coordination. Other times it's massive, leaving you unable to speak or move at all. And the tragedy is that it all began in a place that felt comfortable, even safe. I once treated a retired florist named Barbara, 79 years old, from Kentucky. After a hip surgery, she started sleeping in a recliner because lying flat was painful. What she didn't realize was that every night her legs swelled a little more, her ankles tightened, her blood flow slowed. One morning, her daughter found her still in the chair, barely able to move her hand. The scan revealed a small stroke deep in her brain, a clot that likely formed in her leg while she slept upright. Barbara told me through tears, "I thought I was helping myself. I didn't know I was hurting myself." That's what makes this so frightening. It feels restful, but it isn't. Sleeping upright weakens your body's natural ability to regulate blood pressure and flow. It compresses the veins, thickens the blood, and over time, it forms clots that can change your life forever. If you rely on your recliner for rest, please adjust your position. Sleep on a bed or adjustable frame that keeps your upper body elevated without bending your hips. Stretch your legs, move often, and keep hydrated, because your body isn't made to heal while sitting still. And if you think sleeping upright can quietly rob your brain of oxygen, wait until you hear what happens when you lie on your favorite side with your arm trapped beneath your pillow. It feels comforting, but it might be the most dangerous position of all. 5. Sleeping on the right side with your arm under the pillow. There's a certain comfort to lying on your right side, isn't there? It feels familiar, the position you've used for decades. You tuck your pillow just right, slide your arm underneath it, maybe curl your knees slightly, and drift off, believing it's the most peaceful way to sleep. You might even tell yourself, "This is how I relax best." But what most people over 60 don't realize is that this single position, night after night, can quietly set off a chain reaction inside your body, one that slows blood flow, strains your arteries, and can eventually trigger a stroke. Here's what's really happening beneath the surface. When you sleep on your right side with your arm under your pillow, you're unknowingly pressing on two of the most important highways of blood flow in your upper body, the carotid artery and the subclavian artery. These are the main vessels that carry blood to and from your brain. By resting your head and upper body on that arm, you're applying steady pressure across your neck and shoulder, reducing the space inside those arteries. The blood that should move freely begins to slow down. Veins that are meant to carry blood away from the brain become compressed, and circulation starts to back up. At first, you don't feel a thing, but over time, this reduced flow causes blood to become stagnant and thick. Your body senses that sluggish movement as damage and responds by activating platelets, tiny cells that help the blood clot. That's when trouble begins. A small clot can form right where the pressure is highest, near the neck or shoulder. It might sit quietly for hours, even days, until one night your blood pressure spikes during sleep. That's when it breaks loose. It travels up through the carotid artery, into the vessels of your brain, and in a split second, it blocks blood flow to vital tissue. And just like that, it triggers a stroke. You don't feel it coming. You might wake up groggy, unable to lift your arm, your words tangled on your tongue. You might think it's just a weird dream, or that you slept wrong. But the truth is, your brain was starving for oxygen while you slept. I once treated a 75-year-old Vietnam veteran, Mr. Randall, who had this exact habit. He'd been sleeping on his right side since his days in the service, arm under his pillow, head tilted forward. One morning, his wife found him halfway out of bed, unable to move his left leg. The doctors found a clot in his middle cerebral artery, a stroke triggered by years of nightly pressure on his right neck and shoulder. He told me later, "Doctor, I never imagined the way I slept could betray me." For older adults, this position is particularly risky. Aging arteries lose their flexibility, and nerves in the shoulder become more vulnerable to compression. Add in mild dehydration, low nighttime oxygen, or blood pressure medication that drops your pressure too low, and you've created the perfect setup for restricted circulation and clot formation. Over time, this pressure not only affects blood flow, but can damage the brachial plexus, the bundle of nerves that controls your arm and hand. That's why many seniors wake up with tingling fingers or numbness in their arm, brushing it off as poor circulation. But that numbness is your body's warning sign. If you recognize this position as your own, it's time to make a change, not because of comfort, but because of survival. Try sleeping on your left side instead, with your head gently elevated and your arms resting forward or alongside your body, never underneath. Use a contoured pillow to keep your neck aligned and your shoulder free. That small shift could mean the difference between waking up refreshed or not waking up the same at all. Because if sleeping upright in a recliner lets blood pool in your legs, sleeping on your right side with your arm pinned beneath your pillow traps it near your brain. But the next habit might be even more alarming, because in this one, your own restlessness becomes a warning signal your brain is desperately trying to send before it's too late. 6. Frequent tossing and turning. Restless sleep that warns the brain. There's a kind of restlessness that creeps into our nights as we age. You might know it well, lying awake, shifting from side to side, adjusting your pillow, trying to find that one comfortable spot that never seems to last. Maybe your legs ache, your back stiffens, or you just can't seem to stay asleep. You tell yourself, it's just age. It's normal. But what if that constant tossing and turning wasn't just a sign of aging? What if it was your brain crying out for help? As a neurologist, I've come to see restless sleep as more than a nuisance. For many seniors, it's an early warning, the body's way of saying, something is wrong with your circulation. Each time you toss or turn, you're momentarily changing your blood flow, your oxygen level, and the pressure inside the delicate vessels of your brain. In a younger person, that shift means nothing. But in someone over 60, whose arteries have hardened and veins have lost their elasticity, each movement can be like shaking a fragile system that's already struggling to maintain balance. When your sleep is broken, when your brain never reaches those deep restorative stages, the blood that should flow steadily through the brain starts to fluctuate. It moves fast, then slow, then fast again. Over time, these fluctuations wear down the inner lining of your blood vessels. That constant instability leads to tiny areas where blood begins to stagnate. Stagnant blood, as we know, becomes thicker, heavier, and it forms clots. Those clots don't always stay where they start. When your body experiences its natural early morning blood pressure surge, that's when a clot can break loose, travel upward, and trigger a stroke. I remember one of my patients, Nancy, a retired piano teacher. For months, her husband noticed she'd toss and turn all night long, shifting positions every few minutes. She'd wake up exhausted, complaining of morning headaches and dizziness. She thought it was just poor sleep. Then, one night, she woke up unable to move her right hand, her words slurring as she tried to speak. The scan showed a small ischemic stroke, likely triggered by unstable blood flow during sleep. It wasn't high cholesterol or heart disease, it was her brain, slowly suffocating night after night as it struggled to find rhythm. You see, restful sleep is more than closing your eyes. It's a state where your heart rate stabilizes, your blood pressure lowers, and your brain gets the oxygen and nutrients it needs to heal. When you keep waking or moving, that process is interrupted again and again. Your body releases stress hormones like cortisol, causing blood pressure spikes instead of dips. The tiny vessels in your brain endure pressure they were never meant to handle. And when that happens too often, it becomes the perfect storm. Thickened blood, inflamed vessels, and the quiet formation of a clot waiting to strike. If you find yourself restless at night, don't dismiss it. It's not just discomfort, it's communication. Your body is whispering that something isn't right. Dehydration, low oxygen, poor circulation, or even undiagnosed sleep apnea. Keep water near your bed, avoid caffeine or alcohol late in the evening, and speak to your doctor about a sleep study. Treat restlessness as a symptom, not a habit, because uninterrupted, quality sleep doesn't just feel good, it protects your brain from the inside out. When your sleep is calm, your brain heals. When it's chaotic, it suffers. And sometimes that restlessness is the last warning before a life-changing event. But as dangerous as restless sleep can be, there's something even riskier, something that happens before you even close your eyes. Because the moment you forget or skip that tiny pill your heart depends on, the countdown begins. And many seniors don't realize one missed dose could be all it takes. 7. Sleeping after skipping your blood pressure or heart medication. It happens more often than most people admit. You're tired. The day has been long. Maybe you've already brushed your teeth, settled into bed, and then you remember you forgot to take your medication. You think to yourself, it's just one pill. I'll take it in the morning. But what you don't realize is that skipping that small pill, that single nightly dose, can set off a chain reaction in your body that could change your life forever. As a brain doctor, I've seen it too many times. Seniors who feel perfectly fine when they go to bed, calm, comfortable, maybe even proud of how well they're managing their health, only to wake up unable to speak, unable to move, or unable to remember the names of the people they love most. And the tragedy is that in many of those cases, the stroke that took their independence began with one missed pill. Here's what happens deep inside the body when you skip your heart or blood pressure medication before sleep. Your cardiovascular system depends on routine. These medications, whether it's a beta blocker, ACE inhibitor, calcium channel blocker, or blood thinner, are designed to regulate blood pressure, heart rhythm, and blood thickness in a very delicate balance. When you miss a dose, especially at night, that balance collapses. Your blood pressure, which should gently fall during sleep, begins to surge unpredictably. Your arteries, already stiff from age, can't expand to handle the pressure. The walls strain and tiny cracks form. Meanwhile, the absence of blood thinners or antiplatelet medication allows your blood to grow thicker and stickier. Within hours, a clot can form quietly in one of the brain's arteries or in the neck, waiting to move. And then, as morning approaches, when your natural cortisol levels rise and blood pressure spikes, that clot breaks loose. It travels upward, blocks a vessel, and in an instant, it triggers a stroke. No warning, no pain, just silence. I'll never forget a patient named Harold, a 72-year-old electrician. He was meticulous about his health, took his walks, ate sensibly, rarely missed a doctor's appointment, but one night, distracted by a ball game, he forgot his blood pressure pill. "I'll take it in the morning," he told himself. The next day, he woke up with half his face drooping and his speech slurred. The scan revealed a clot in his left brain hemisphere, a direct result of overnight pressure surges after missing his medication. Harold survived, but his speech never fully returned. When he looked at me later and whispered, "One pill, doc. I skipped one pill," I saw the pain of regret in his eyes, a pain no one should have to carry. For older adults, the body's ability to self-regulate weakens with age. The heart becomes less efficient and blood vessels lose flexibility. That's why these medications matter more now than ever. They don't just control numbers. They protect your brain, your memory, and your independence. When you skip them, you're removing the barrier that stands between you and catastrophe. It's not dramatic, it's biological. If you find it hard to remember your pills, use a weekly pill box with alarms or reminders on your phone. Keep an extra set by your bed. Ask a loved one to check in with you each night, because consistency isn't just about discipline, it's about survival. One skipped pill can trigger strokes. One night of neglect can form blood clots that change everything. You've worked too hard to protect your health to lose it over something so small. Never underestimate the power of that little tablet. It keeps your heart steady, your blood flowing, and your brain alive. But even if you take every pill, sleep in a perfect position, and follow every rule, there's still one last hidden danger most people never think about. Something in your room, something that feels harmless, but can quietly tighten your arteries and steal oxygen from your brain as you sleep. And it all begins with the temperature of the air around you. Final wake-up call. Sleep is not just rest, it's protection. Now that we've uncovered these 7 silent habits that can raise your risk of stroke overnight, I want you to understand one truth that too many people learn only after it's too late. Most nighttime strokes are preventable. They don't happen by chance. They don't strike out of nowhere. They build slowly, silently, through years of small habits. The way you lie in bed, the temperature of your room, the blanket you choose, the pill you forget. Every detail adds up. For decades, many seniors have been told that sleep is simply rest, a time to close your eyes and recharge. But science tells us otherwise. Sleep is when your brain performs maintenance on itself. It clears toxins, balances blood pressure, restores oxygen flow, and resets your heart rhythm. It's your body's most powerful natural repair system. And when that system is disrupted, when blood pools, oxygen drops, or circulation slows, the brain suffers quietly until one night it can't recover. That's when it triggers a stroke. I've seen it in hospitals across the country. Men and women who went to bed fine and woke up forever changed. Some never walk again. Some lose the ability to speak, to remember faces, to hold a grandchild. And what breaks my heart most is knowing that in so many of these cases, a simple change, slightly raised pillow, a glass of water before bed, a remembered dose of medication could have made all the difference. If you're over 60, I want you to start thinking about your sleep not as a luxury, but as medicine. Ask yourself every night, is the way I'm sleeping helping my brain or hurting it? Keep your head gently elevated, not flat. Avoid heavy blankets, cold rooms, or sleeping on your stomach. Don't skip your heart or blood pressure medication even once. Hydrate before bed and avoid alcohol or heavy meals late at night. These are small acts, but each one is a form of protection, a promise to your future self. Because the truth is, you still have control. You have the power to protect your brain and your independence, no matter your age. Your body may have changed with time, but your choices still matter. You can choose to sleep in a way that supports life, not endangers it. So tonight, when you pull back your covers, pause for just a moment. Think about everything your body has carried you through, the miles you've walked, the years you've lived, the memories you hold. You owe it to yourself to protect that. Because when you protect your sleep, you protect your mind, your voice, your future, everything that makes you, you. Sleep wisely, live fully, and never forget, every peaceful night is another chance to protect the most important organ you have, your brain. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.